WKZO, Monday morning, October 17. And as we've been talking about on the show this morning, 3 weeks from tomorrow, Election Day 2022, although for some, they've cast their votes already or will before the November 8th election comes up on the calendar. Our guest for this segment of our show is running for one of the two available seats on the Kalamazoo County Circuit Court bench. Rebecca D'Angelo is with us this morning on WKZO in the studio. Nice to see you. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great, Ken. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate a chance to chat with you. You currently work as an assistant prosecuting attorney here in Kalamazoo County. You have for the past 7 years. So what led you to seek a seat on the bench?
Thank you for asking. And yes, I've been working here in Kalamazoo County as an assistant prosecuting attorney for 7 years, but actually most of my career, which is about 20 years as an attorney, has been in prosecutorial work of some kind, whether it was out in Boston or it was here in Michigan. What really led me to run for judge here in Kalamazoo is I really wanted to get more involved in what I call the dispositional aspect of cases. So what I've been seeing as a prosecutor is a lot of repeat offenders kind of coming back through the system. And when I talk about dispositional aspect, I'm talking about mostly like the sentencing aspect of a case. And with regard to like reducing recidivism, I think it's very important that as a judge that we really know this county, know where the concerns, the dangers are, what the voters are thinking, and fashion sentences that not only address the crime, but also address the idea of rehabilitation as well as safety with regard to our community. And that was actually one of the main reasons why I decided to run.
Well, one of those issues that seems to be front and center with many here in Kalamazoo County is gun violence, obviously. What role will a court play in perhaps in helping to ease people's minds about that particular issue?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I agree with you 100%. I currently work on most of our high priority offender cases, including our gun violence as well as drug trafficking cases here in Kalamazoo. I believe that the judiciary, and specifically judges, really do need to be involved with regard to addressing that issue. And that's how they do that with regard to the sentences. If people are brave enough and strong enough to actually come in from these communities and say what happened to them, say what's going on with this gun violence, judges need to listen. And we also need judges that are on this bench that understand what is happening. On every single case of my shooting cases and my major cases, I go to the victims. I go straight down to the streets. I go to their homes. I go to the hospital, and I interview them and I speak with them directly. I'm hearing what has been happening to them. And as a judge, I believe that I will be able to address that issue not only with strict and severe punishment with regard to if you're shooting a gun in this county, you need to go and sit down. It's what I like to call it. That might be some jail time or some prison time. But then also as a judge, I plan on working with that individual that when they come back to our county and they're on parole or they're on probation, they need to have programs and things in place that will help them hopefully change their ways and not pick up a gun again.
Kalamazoo County Assistant Prosecutor Rebecca D'Angelo is with us on WKZO, candidate for the Kalamazoo County Circuit Court bench in the November 8th election. In your campaign literature, you describe the justice system as being often out of touch. What do you mean by that? And how do you get in touch?
Yeah, so it's a hard statement, I guess, to kind of make because I do work with our judges every day here in Kalamazoo County, and I do believe that they try and they very much care about what is happening. But it is so often very easy to become out of touch when you're not actively on the streets and you're not down there. Now, obviously, judges take a different role than, let's say, a prosecutor or a defense attorney. They do have to maintain like a nonpartisan type of view, but it doesn't mean that they don't need to be informed. They need to understand what is happening. Judges typically are elected in this county, and they're elected for a reason. They're elected to represent the needs and what this county is saying. So for me, I plan on bringing experience, a lot of knowledge, and even direct personal experiences as well from my job to the bench and to use that information with regard to moving forward on cases.
The pandemic changed the judicial process a bit. It created a backlog of cases. It brought video more prominently into the courtrooms. What can be done to alleviate future backlogs of cases? And are you a fan of the video process or expanding that?
Okay, so that's a great question. So with regard to the video, I agree. It's really changed the way we are approaching cases, not only judges, but prosecutors, defense attorneys. Certain types of hearings, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of the video. I think it makes it more accessible for all people with regard to, especially if you're just there to get another date or to move the case to another hearing or something like that. I think the video process is great. Where, though, we need in-person is when there are what we call evidentiary hearings, when there's a presentation of evidence. It's very important that all parties, including the defendant, is there in court in person facing their accused, and they will often, on those hearings, be required to come in. So I think with regard to also reducing our backlog, I think that it's actually starting to happen. We're seeing some good progress that is happening, but I believe the video technology will continue to assist us with that. We can move through cases a lot quicker. It's a lot more efficient. So I'm definitely a fan of continuing that. And I think that part of moving cases forward, too, is communication between the parties and the judge. The judge needs to know what they're thinking. Is this really a trial, or is this a case we could settle? Or is this a case that if we really talk it out, we could reach somewhere in the middle? So I believe that as a judge, I intend to be as active as possible with regard to cases and communication with the different parties.
Do we need more judges?
To be honest, yes, we actually do. And I know that our county commissioners have just considered adding another Ninth Circuit Court judge to the bench. It won't happen this year, but hopefully in the next year or two at the very most. I think they're waiting on some final approval from the state of Michigan with regard to that judge being able to sit here. But it would be a wonderful addition to our county. Not only would it spread cases out a little bit more, so I think people would get to court quicker and get a resolution faster. But yes, we're growing. This county, it's a wonderful thing. I mean, if you see all the progress that's happening in Kalamazoo, all the buildings going up, all the housing, it's a good thing. But with that as well, it also brings more cases to the court. And absolutely, I'm a huge fan of adding a new judge, for sure.
Kalamazoo County Assistant Prosecutor Rebecca D'Angelo has been with us on WKZO, a candidate for one of the two seats that are available on the Kalamazoo County Circuit Court bench in the upcoming election. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Yes, and thank you, Ken. I appreciate being here.